To what extent should Chinese parenting be acceptable? China's development is accelerating and expanding every day. We notice that everywhere. For example, in the economical area. Chinese companies increasingly grow in importance. And not only their own companies grow, they also partly take over the Western companies. That is because we choose to produce our product, or a part of our product, in China, as its workers are willing to work harder for less money. That positively affects the cost of the product, which is what every company owner wants. But we also notice this development in sports. The Summer Olympic Games is the most important international sports competition which is held in a different country once every 4 years. If we look at China's performances from the last 5 times, we see that they are definitely improving. In 1996, they became 4th with 16 golden medals, and in 2000 they won 28 golden medals and became 3rd. The time after that, they became 2nd with 32 golden medals, and when they hosted the games in 2008, they became 1st with 51 golden medals. And last time in 2012 they became 2nd with 38 golden medals. Therefore I wondered, what is it that China does differently? How did they become so successful? Some people choose for the simplest answer. The world population counts more than 1 billion Chinese people. Not to mention the Japanese and Koreans. Looking at it from this point of view, it seems to be logical that a Chinese person often makes it to the top of the world in his or her field of interest. Simply because 1 out of every 6 people of the world population is Chinese. This reasoning is understandable, but its reliability can be questioned. Sports like swimming, soccer and table tennis differ hugely from each other, and not everyone will be able to reach such a high level in this sport to perform at the Olympic Games. You surely need some natural aptitude in this. But most of all, you need days, weeks, months, probably even years of practice. In order to become successful, one will have to start training at a very early age. But a child from 4 or 5 years old does not want to practice playing table tennis 3 hours a day. He would rather play with his Playmobil train. Therefore, it's crucial for the parents to override their children's preferences. This is often the case with Chinese children. That is because many Chinese parents believe that nothing is fun until you're good at it. Research showed that the children often find themselves isolated from their social environment and are taken to a gym or sports club where they practice several hours every day. Of course, you need to sacrifice a lot for this, but if it is the road to success, then why not do it? But when practicing this way affects the social development of the child, should this be acceptable? And if so, to what extent? An article written by Gwen Dewar raised my interest. She is a philosopher doctor from the University of Michigan, and she did research on the same question as I stated before. How do Chinese people become so successful? Dewar states that this is indeed a direct consequence of the strict parenting. In her article Parenting Science, she concludes, Chinese mothers raise more accomplished, academically successful children because they are more demanding and strict than Western mothers are. Many examples of children in a similar situation are to be found on the internet, like an article of Amy Kue, professor at Yale Law School and writer of the book called Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. It is an awe-inspiring, often hilarious and very honest story of one mother's exercise in extreme parenting, revealing the rewards but also the costs of raising her children in the Chinese way. She describes why she thinks Chinese mothers are superior. She completely agrees with the vision. Nothing is fun until you're good at it. But what I consider even more shocking, they think nothing is impossible. If you fail to pass a test or if you get a low grade, Chinese parents tend to blame this on a lack of studying rather than a lack of ability. This results in Chinese children generally being very disciplined. But is this actually acceptable? If you want your life to be focused on one thing, one achievement, then that can be very fulfilling. But it should be what you want and not what your mother or your father wants. At a very young age you are obliged to listen to your parents, because you cannot make responsible decisions for yourself. You also cannot realize if practicing the sport or learning the whole day is actually what you really want. If it is not, then I think your whole childhood was one example of child abuse. Your parents just used you to gain a part of their own pride, because they have a successful son or a successful daughter. This would greatly affect your own life. Childhood has been appeared to be crucial for social development and communication skills. However, having fun is also essential. These three things are necessary in childhood for an individual to be able to build a life on his own when he or she is around the age of 20. If you have some general knowledge and connections via social networks, you are able to live on your own when you are an adult. But when you were always the one that had to go home when the school bell rang at 15 hours, just to study and practice, you have lived in an isolated world. You do not have any friends or any idea of what the world is like next to your own study or sport. You simply cannot enjoy your life. This creates an introvert human being who will likely raise his own children in the exact same way. This matches with the view that I had on Chinese people. The Chinese people that I know myself are never the ones that scream for attention, lead a loud conversation, or the child down the street that is always full with healthy mischief. They are always the quiet people who never loudly disagree with you, and always behave perfectly. Emotionally and socially, they are definitely not as developed as other people. Of course there are exceptions, but I am referring to the majority of the Chinese population. This view of the Chinese population does not change when I see them on television, receiving their golden medal on the Olympic Games. A shy and careful smile might show up, but that is it. This might be the result of a strict childhood, in which academical and sportive aspects were much more important than social development. But another interesting article actually stunned me. I am talking about Hannah Rosin's article, Mother Inferior. It makes sense to me that the Chinese parenting described above was a sort of selfishness, because the parents see their children as a piece of pride of themselves. But is it not much more beautiful for a mother or father to see their child fit in a modern society as a normal behaving child? Of course, talents and qualities of your child are something to cherish, but I think there is more to it. The statements of Hannah Rosin were a recognition to me. It must be beautiful to see your 3-year-old child draw a birthday card, even when half of the colors are drawn outside the lines. When your child goes to a sleepover and comes back like a ghost because it did not catch an hour of sleep, my thought would be, well, they had fun, at least they are definitely getting the most out of their childhood, and I would enjoy that feeling as well. However, it is understandable that Chinese parents would never let these children do that. No sleepover, and if they would sneak out, they would severe punishment. When their child would hastily draw a birthday card, they would tear it apart and give their child a new one until it would be drawn correctly, with the ideology that nothing is fun until you're good at it. Because remember, practice makes perfect. But then again, there are situations thinkable in which everyone might be happy in a Chinese situation. When a Chinese boy's passion is soccer from the moment he is born, and his parents only stimulate him, he might get even more successful than he could ever imagine. He and his parents will then all be very happy persons, and they did not actually do anything wrong. And when you play soccer for 3 hours a day with your teammates while you are enjoying it, you automatically develop more social skills than when you do not like it. If we objectively have a look at these two perspectives, then I conclude the following two streams: Chinese parenting and Western parenting. Chinese, it's strict, it's unsocial, it's slightly more successful and less enjoying of life. The Western parenting has more freedom, is social, less successful, but generally enjoys life more. Please remember that there will always be exceptions to the rules. In Europe, there might be families who adhere to the Chinese way of parenting. The other way around is also possible. These are two completely different cultures. They probably find their origin in the fact that China has economically always been deprived. For generations, they have got used to the fact that they will have to work harder to achieve success. Due to the fact that there are many Chinese people, they have also learned that they have to distinguish themselves. Therefore, for them, the Chinese way of living might be the best, although it does not always seem fair. For the Western people, it might seem convenient what we have accomplished. But we have to be careful. Compared to Chinese children, we have a beautiful childhood. We are born in a society which is perhaps the most economically developed in the world, and we should be aware of that. Because of the achievements of previous generations with good jobs and good reputations, we think we will manage to get there as well. The pitfall of this moment is that we are starting to get lazy. We are getting used to the fact that we can effortlessly reach our goal, and we have forgotten what hard work really means. Chinese people have not forgotten, and they are striving to get on the same economic level as we are. When they will reach that, and they are used to working and performing the way they do now, they will probably take over. So, to what extent should Chinese parenting be acceptable? When starting this research, I was slightly skeptical about the Chinese parenting. But now I feel we have to be aware of the fact, how well they are actually doing. China is making progress due to its own motivation. And if we, in the Western world, want to keep on achieving, we have to realize that discipline can be the new key to success. East and West can learn from each other. Hence, I feel Chinese parenting is acceptable, unless there will be the required space and atmosphere for the child to also develop itself into a balanced adult. Because I think that life is not only about achieving, but also about enjoying.